In Week 2 of the LEC Spring Split, Fnatic and Schalke faced off in what was the return of an old rivalry between veteran players Reckless and Forgiven. Fnatic started on the back foot, but quickly recovered and jumped to a commanding gold lead at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Today we're having a look at how Fnatic quickly bounced back from a disadvantageous position and showed great fundamentals to create an early game lead and put themselves in a good position to beat their opponents. Given the lane matchups and the jungle matchup coming from both compositions, it's expected for Schalke to have control over the map in the early game. Senna and Braum will have an easy time pushing and gaining priority at level 1, as Piercing Darkness can be used as wave clear and poke at the same time. In mid lane, Nemesis needs to play back on Cassiopeia, as LeBlanc can easily set up with Jarvan for a kill. And Jarvan is favored over Gragas in the early game. He wins every extended trade, so he wants to leverage his lane priority and be proactive in the windows that he's substantially stronger than his counterpart, either by ganking or invading. From level 1, Fnatic set up defensively, with a ward to potentially spot a late invade on the top side and set position close to mid lane in case a level 1 fight broke out. Selfmade wants to avoid dueling Gilius, so he does blue into Wolves and then Krugs to make sure that he's level 3 in case he runs into him at his topside jungle. Just before the 3-minute mark, Schalke try to set up a gank mid. This causes Nemesis to instantly blow his flash, making the 2v2 mid jungle even more unfavorable for Fnatic. Gilius then moves into the enemy jungle to take the enemy Raptors. Nemesis moves to try and contest with Selfmade, who is clearing the red buff, and body slams over to secure it with Smite, but he comes in too late. This is a huge misplay. Not only does Selfmade dash in too late to contest the Raptors, but he also gives away the information as Schalke sees he doesn't have a red buff. With a big wave in mid lane about to crash onto Fnatic's turret, top lane being able to move first for Schalke and a losing jungle matchup, Fnatic give up the red. Selfmade is forced to move to the bottom side of the map. At this point, Fnatic are in a pretty rough spot. Cassiopeia, having no flash, is in a prime position to get ganked again in the next few minutes, and Gragas is going to be behind in experience. And this is when they surprise their opponents. Pressured under turret, Fnatic's bot lane gets to level 3. This unlocks the slow for Misfortune and the Lantern for Thresh, which gives them the opportunity to go for a lane gank using the Lantern. Fnatic execute the gank and get first blood, while also forcing Schalke's bot lane to expend both flashes. In hindsight, Schalke should have crashed the 4th minion wave, so it would have bounced back and put them in a safer position, but they were lulled into a false sense of security while they should have expected Gragas to end bot side after being forced out of his topside jungle. Forgiven stays around to clear the minions, and Fnatic go for a repeat gank. Even though he can see Gragas, Forgiven stays positioned too far forward. Hylissang pulls the trigger, and Fnatic grab a second kill. At this point, bot lane is over. But Schalke still have the advantage in the mid lane, where LeBlanc and Jarvan can easily set up a kill on a flashless Cassiopeia. Nemesis knows that his lane is in an awful position, so instead of sticking around to try and push it out when he could be ganked, he instead backs away and pings the wave, notifying his team that he needs help. So even though Abbedagge cleverly sets up a freeze and Gilius moves into the bush, there's no gank to be had. Schalke are expecting Nemesis to teleport back in, but Nemesis showcases level-headedness, not falling for the bait and opting to save his teleport and walk back to lane. Eventually, Dreams uses the Scryer's Bloom, which alerts Fnatic that the opposing team is definitely around mid lane, so everyone moves in. Now with his teammates close by, Nemesis finally moves up and baits the gank. Fnatic win the skirmish, getting a kill and forcing LeBlanc back to base. Gilius spent a total of 45 seconds in that same mid lane bush. He might have cost Nemesis a minion wave, but he ended up wasting a lot of time himself, losing his experience lead over Selfmade. At this point, it felt like Fnatic were playing with wall hacks, while Schalke were permanently Nocturne ulted. After the skirmish, Selfmade invades to take enemy Krugs. Hylissang is sitting in the bush nearby, presumably to get his jungler out with a lantern. While he stands in the bush though, he spots Gilius, who is called to the bot lane to help Forgiven crash the wave. Because earlier, instead of shoving, he slow pushed it. This ended up leaving the wave in front of Fnatic's tower. Gilius is caught out and dies. Worst of all, Schalke still have the wave frozen at Fnatic's tower. With no flash and the information that the enemy jungler was just bot lane, Forgiven decides to risk it all, stepping forward and giving up another kill with yet another gank from Selfmade. At 6:30, Fnatic had a 2.6k gold lead. In just 3 minutes, they managed to turn the game on its head. In this game, Selfmade showed adaptability, being able to bounce back from getting triple buffed and finding a gank opportunity. Nemesis showed restraint, not teleporting back to lane, opting to lose gracefully instead of risking it all. Fnatic also did a good job of punishing Schalke's bot lane, who didn't respect the possibility of an early gank and then showcased both poor wave manipulation and also impatience, which allowed Fnatic to snowball their early lead further.